Alrighty, I'm sure some more people will come trickling in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Layton. If you do not know me, I am the Vice President of Membership for the Long Beach Area Chamber of Commerce. And we have an awesome program for you today. So thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. And I do want to give a special thank you to our sponsors of this event, Valero and St. Mary Medical Center. Thank you for your continued support of LBYP events. Before we start this program, I just want to briefly review some housekeeping. First and foremost, this event is being recorded. It will be made available on our YouTube page as well as sent out to all of our registrants and attendees. And before I introduce our featured guests today, I just want to remind everyone that please stay muted. There will be opportunities to speak throughout the program, but until then, please remain on mute. And before I introduce our speaker, I would like to start in LBYP fashion with an icebreaker, as we like to do. So today's question for the icebreaker is, what food could you eat every day and never get tired of? So I am just going to kick it off randomly. We'll go around the virtual room and share out. If Robert, you want to go first?
Ooh, that's a tough question. So are we talking individual item or a category of food?
Let's do both. Do you have both?
Yes. So I go through weird phases where I eat the same thing for breakfast almost every single day, but it changes. So sometimes it's waffles, sometimes it's breakfast burritos, sometimes it's cereal. Lately it's been bagels, and specifically Dave's Killer Good Bread Epic Everything bagels, which I've not only can, but have been eating every day for like the last week and a half. But if we're doing categories, I would say probably the thing that I would be able to have every single day would be Japanese food.
Love it. Great choices. Alrighty, Rachel?
I think as far as category, probably tacos. And it helps that there's so many different varieties, but also if you want like a limit, like carne asada tacos, I think I could eat every day.
Love it. And Jonathan?
Yeah, in terms of categories, pizza, and in terms of specifics, carne asada, carne asada burrito.
Delicious. Love it. How about Chris?
So for me, my number one would have to be pasta, any kind of pasta, particularly raviolis, because my mother tells me that her grandfather actually owned and operated a French bistro. So we're very particular about our side of the family in making pasta. So that's what I go to for sure. Like if I was a dog and I was forced to eat the same food for the rest of my life with the loving family, pasta would be the way to go for me.
I love it. I love it. How about Damini?
Hi. I'm not too picky. I love food. I could eat anything and everything, and I do because I love food. But this is hard. So, okay. So my favorite overarching theme is always Mexican food. I always feel like you can never go wrong with tortillas, cheese, onions, cilantro, avocados. Oh, so good. Just like the whole realm of things is absolutely delicious. And then specific food, I'm gonna go with Robert on this one because right now I'm in the avocado bagel phase and I can't stop eating it, and it's so good.
I love it. I love it. Atira?
I'll keep it very simple. Cheese. Any cheese, all the cheeses. I love cheese. I could and I do eat some kind of cheese every day. Cheese is my jam.
I love it. Cheese is your jam. For those of you who are just joining us, we are sharing out what food we could eat every day and never tire of. So Natalie?
Mine is potatoes. I'm a big fan of potatoes. I feel like there's a lot of different ways you can eat them. But it's kind of like always my fun fact on my websites. I could literally eat potatoes for every meal. So
I love it. I love it. I'm a huge potato fan as well. Andrea?
So I think I'm the opposite. I'm more of an I eat because I have to. Like sometimes I forget to eat and then I get the headache that reminds me, oh, why can't I get rid of this headache? Advil's not working. Oh, I haven't eaten today. Which is also very bad for you. Don't do that. It's terrible for your metabolism. If I had to choose one particular food item, I would go with watermelon. I look forward to watermelon season every summer. And then in terms of a category, I love acai bowls. I know that's really like frou-frou, but I just never met an acai bowl that I don't like. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Esmeralda?
Hi. Well, in terms of categories, I would have to go with Mexican. I mean, there's so many things you can do with a tortilla, with chicken and cheese and salsa. You can make enchiladas, you can make tacos, you can make chilaquiles. It's just Mexican. You can't go wrong with that.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh, Catherine?
Hi. So favorite food is pizza. Like there's not a commercial that I don't see that I'm like, ooh, pizza sounds good. And like this year, I've limited myself to once a week I can have pizza because it's a problem. But same thing people are saying about Mexican food. I love the variety you can have with pizza. Like Simsey's has like a good breakfast pizza that I like. Like you can have a dessert pizza. I love it. Pizza's my jam.
Love that. Love it. How about Dana and Chef Paul?
I'm a Mexican food addict. I have a problem, I must say. I love it. But I also like Japanese food and pasta. So, but I say the one ingredient or the one thing for me is butter. Like butter is the best. It's almost cheese, but if it wasn't for butter, I'd have cheese, but I like the butter. Anything. Put it on everything. How about you? There's a reason I married a chef.
I think I followed all of your food likes and I wanted all of them. So I was thinking, yeah, tacos is great. Oh, Mexican food is great. Quesadillas. I think people ask me what my comfort food is, and it's probably Thai curry. So I love Thai curry and a nice either black rice or purple rice. It's just so soothing, and Thai food is really versatile. I went to cooking school there before I went to culinary school here in the States. So I think that was probably one of my first loves of learning how to spice up my life.
I love that. I would have to say Thai food as well. I actually just had Thai food last night. It is delicious, but my number one thing is Vietnamese noodle soup, pho. I could eat 24/7 every single day. I absolutely adore it. So great. Thank you all. Hopefully you're hungry now and will continue to get hungry because we're just going to be talking about food. And that brings us to our wonderful presenters today, Chef Paul Buchanan and Dana Buchanan from Primal Alchemy. Primal Alchemy is a chef-driven catering company serving all of Southern California, specializing in cooking with organic, seasonal, locally sourced ingredients. With a thorough background in traditional culinary preparation and a progressive approach that incorporates increasingly popular farm-to-table philosophy. Primal Alchemy collaborates with local producers to provide a diverse array of food that is extremely fresh, simply seasoned, and prepared in the most straightforward manner. And from Primal Alchemy, we are joined today by its owners and operators, Chef Paul and Dana Buchanan. Chef Paul is Primal Alchemy's executive chef and an avid gardener and roller skater with a deep appreciation for locally sourced cuisine. And Dana is a quantum physics enthusiast who spends her time when not overseeing Primal Alchemy's day-to-day functions in any body of water she can relax in. So thank you so much to both of you for joining us. And I am going to pass it on over to you.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I got to tell you guys, we could do like a 5-hour thing on this because charcuterie is one of his biggest passions and one thing that we're known for. But what we're going to try to do today is condense that down, and we're going to cover 5 main topics. One is what is charcuterie? Number 2, how to make a balanced board. Number 3, quantities, like how much do you put on there? Number 4, aesthetics, and number 5, equipment and sourcing. So we're gonna just kind of hit some bullet points on each one of those. About 2/3 of the way through, we're gonna start showing you some pictures that are gonna make you salivate, and just kind of show you some boards, big boards we've done, and some components of those. So I'm gonna let Chef Paul explain to you exactly what is charcuterie.
So charcuterie and salumi are two terms, one being French, one being Italian, that covers the whole family of cured whole muscle meats, salamis, and probably more in France and Italy, the terrines that they do, including some of the ones that are wrapped in dough and baked. I mean, that whole family is all charcuterie. I think you could say that those have condiments that go with them, but charcuterie is actually the whole family of cured meats, and probably 95–99% of it is pork products. But if you said you're doing a vegan charcuterie board these days, that's a total possibility, because what they've done is to satisfy other preferences of doing plant-based. We've made salamis, we've made our own cheeses that were plant-based, and so you can really experiment. But charcuterie really is, those sliceable things that are on the board that are generally referred to as cured meat or cured pork products, and sometimes cured beef products that you would have. And in the Italian have their names for them. The French have a little bit different and sometimes more refined terms for them. I know Dana has an input on it too, because it's mistaken a lot these days.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've noticed in the social media realm, especially during COVID shutdown, because everybody's decided they're going to do charcuterie boards, right? It was like this, they were everywhere, all over Instagram. One of the things that I've seen though is that people are referring to charcuterie as everything on the board. So if you have grapes, those are not charcuterie. Cheese is not charcuterie. Almonds and pickled carrots are not charcuterie. So it's really a cheese and charcuterie board that has all those components to it. But the cheese is cheese, the charcuterie is charcuterie, and everything else is just condiments and accompaniments. So if you really want to sound like you know what you're talking about, make sure you know what charcuterie really is, because you won't sound like people are doing like some more charcuterie boards and waffle charcuterie boards, and no, they're not. So those are waffle boards and dessert boards. So anyway, just want to make sure that you sound smart about charcuterie when you get asked. So you have this in front of you, and Paul, do you just want to kind of walk through?
Sure. So we have
a
package of 3 cheeses. We have a package, vacuum sealed package of 3 different meats, and we have 2 different mustards, some cornichons, and in the little deli cup is all the dry kind of garnishes, where we have dried fruits, nuts, crackers, all those things that will be pairing with the charcuterie. But really, like, the only charcuterie here is that one little package, as far as that goes. But you want, I don't want to go through the process yet, but I would say that balance is having something that is like the charcuterie, which has a good amount of fat in it, have some mustards that go with that you can put onto the bread, and basically make little bites that you can eat during, the course of enjoying one. If you have the ability to have a little ramekin or something like that to put the mustards in, that's great. But if you're just doing it for yourself, like we're kind of displaying it as just like, here's one board, and we'll take all these components and balance them out to make them an appealing snack for us all to have at the end.
So with that, you basically, because this is so fatty, which is why it's so delicious. Again, that fat content. But if you take that and you pair it with the acid that's in pickled things like the cornichons, and the pungent of a mustard, and the I'm going to open this up. Yeah. The crunch that comes with crackers and breads and crostinis, then you have kind of a balance between the flavors of all these things. So in here you have some dried apricots. Are these candy?
Yeah, candy.
You have candied walnuts, which kind of have a little sweet to them, but again, a crunch. You've got some freeze-dried strawberries, and a little, what is this, a little fig?
That's fig.
A little piece of fig. So all these complement each other as part of the whole board. When it comes to cheeses, you want to have a sampling of maybe a really creamy brie, but you don't want to have all brie. You know, maybe you put a really nice blue, a really nice brie, and a really nice aged cheddar or something like that, so that you have a little bit, and you could talk more about cheeses too.
Just different textures and flavors. I did not put brie in your selection because it just would be, you know, too sticky and gooey.
Yeah.
So in this case, I tried to go for something that was a goat milk, sheep milk, and cow's milk. That also helps you get some kind of a variety. All I did was just wrap them in little plastic wrap and then paper for you guys. But you can if you want to, you can unwrap those and also maybe open up the little board here with the meat on it. I was just going to use a pair of scissors and open it up and let it set a little bit. It's better that these are room temperature before you open them or before you try to peel them, because when the fat is cold, it tends to stick together very, very much, and they're really hard to separate. But on this little gold board is a great place to keep them, and these little packets of charcuterie that we sell at the local markets and that we do for our clients, they'll keep for quite a while in the refrigerator. So.
And when you peel it off, you want to be very careful about how you do that. And you want to, on the board itself, you don't want to lay it flat on the board, because in order to pick it up, you have to get something underneath it. Or we use tongs, little tongs a lot, that you can, you know, when you're serving yourself off the board. So you want to have kind of a little bit of a body to it and not be really flat. Otherwise, you're kind of having to scrape it off. So you can arrange it like that.
Yeah. So I'm using a knife to separate off the salami off the top first and try to peel it off in like a nice layer, so that I can have all my 3 different styles separated. This salami that's in here is a Finocchiona. It's a Finocchiona salami, so it has fennel and black pepper in it. They're cut really, really thin, so that's to really enjoy when you put something on your tongue, or if you're having it all by itself, or if you're having it on a little cracker. You really don't need a lot of this. You're talking grams of meat, not ounces, and definitely not pounds. You know, I think we should be eating, you know, if we're going to eat meat, we should eat meat that is the best quality we can get, and less quantity. Yeah. So instead of eating 8 ounces of meat that's you know, inexpensive, we should be eating maybe 4 ounces of meat that is a little more expensive, and it's cared for better, maybe organic or free range, or, you know, something where the closer you are to buying it from the farmer, the better. All the charcuterie that we make comes straight from the farm in Northern California, from Americo Pig, that we get 360 pounds this year, and we took every single part of it and made it into something delicious.
So you want to put it on there?
Yeah. Well,
should I get Notorious PhD?
Yeah, he's probably way up a little, pretty high up there. But or I can. Do you want to cover maybe like one of the next points where I'm separating them?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, so the textures and flavors we talked about. So you got your crunchy, you got your smooth, you got your sweet, salty, fatty. You know, really, that's the pleasure of eating like this. You know, I don't know about you guys, but when we travel to Europe, we like to grab a baguette and some charcuterie and some cheese and just a bottle of wine and go sit by the river and picnic that way. So this is kind of like that, only all on a board. So when you're doing that, one of the things is pairing what to drink with it. So wine, you probably don't want to do a big heavy cab with this kind of a charcuterie board, because it just kills everything. You're probably better off with a nice Pinot, maybe a Viognier. There's lots of whites that go really well with it. But if you're gonna do a red, you don't want to do anything really, really heavy. You don't want to do a Syrah, you don't want to do a Cab, a Zinfandel. You want to stick to Beaujolais, Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Maybe rosés. Rosés are beautiful with this, especially in the summer. Pair really well with the flavors, because charcuterie really developed in the parts of Italy and France for meat curing that are warmer climates. So those kind of wines that grow in those areas go really well with it. quantities.
Well, yeah, let me talk to you about cheese and quantities. First of all, for one person, you know, if we're going to have a board for one person, I'm going to consider that's going to be their appetizer. You know, they need a few of each, either crackers or crostinis or a little piece of bread, but they also need to have about 1 ounce of three different kinds of cheeses. So between 3 to 4 ounces of cheese is plenty for you for a snack like that. And the meat itself is more like grams. So these are cut on number 1 on the slicer, very, very thin. So I only have about 3 pieces of salami, of 2 pieces of the 2 other meats that are on here, the lonza and the copa. But the cheeses, I would say, when you're laying out your cheese board, let's look at the first one. The orange one with the blue in it is a Shropshire. So it's a blue, but it's based on more of like a cheddar. So it's an English blue cheese, not a French or Italian blue cheese. Italian blue cheese being like, you know, Gorgonzola, and there's lots of blues that are from Italy and also from France, but not so many from England. So on this case, I wouldn't really slice that up into smaller pieces for a board, especially if you're making it for a large amount of people. If you're talking a firmer cheese like the Gouda or the other sheep's milk cheese that's here, those you want to make sure that you could slice them a little bit in slices that people would eat. If you're just there by yourself, you can just put chunks out there and it's easy. You're not eating with anybody else. It's just you. So you don't have to impress anybody. I did want to point out, I don't think any of you got it because I think I took the end cuts, but there is paper or sometimes cheesecloth or wax that is on cheese, depending on what style it's made. So you don't want to, in most cases, you don't want to eat anything that has wax on it. There are sometimes where there's like a bloomy rind on the outside and you just taste a little bit of it, and that's probably fine as long as it doesn't taste like wax in your teeth when you take a little bite of it, because I don't think anybody's going to like that. So you can peel it. Sometimes you can just peel it down like a banana skin, and you can get it to peel right off. It's just something they use to form the wheels, and most of the time it'll have a pattern that's just like cheesecloth. So that's how you recognize it. But I would peel that off and not eat that part.
But what about this kind of rind?
Now the kind of rind like this that is on the end here, that is naturally on the outside of the wheel. So that doesn't have any wax, because if I try to peel it off with my finger, it doesn't really come off. Eat that part. So I try it and I go, well, it doesn't taste like wax. If it tastes too waxy to you, like they may have had a coating of wax on it, you can just take a knife and trim that part down. Okay. But anyway, I would say both of these cheeses, I would slice and make into like smaller pieces, and I can make like a little pile of them. I think your charcuterie board has to have a little bit of texture and differences like that. So it's nice to have some slices, and then you can pile them up on the board and give it like a little bit of height. So you have a little bit higher back in here. This cheese may stay in a whole piece and in here in the corner.
And just put a knife on it.
And then there'll be a knife on it, just like you have there, the little small knife that'll be there. But then we also need to make room for our other charcuterie. And when we place that, I go for the large pieces first, and I really just try to
make a little tent.
Make a little tent or fold them somehow so they can stand up and have some kind of height. Just rolling them over so they're almost like a little wave is nice as well. But it's just so they're separated and they don't stick together.
You don't want to cut up brie though. Any soft cheeses like that, you pretty much just want to put the wheel out there and just stick the knife in it, and people will serve themselves as they go.
Yeah, it's very hard to slice something like brie. So I'm on here. So we have the salami, we have the dry cured whole muscle meats, and then I have and then I'll slice up this last one, which is much easier than that last one. And you can use your knife here. Usually this is serrated, so you can use a little cutting board as a place to cut it. But I would say I'd make another little pile on there as well. Now it doesn't look like in this case, because we just got a small cutting board for you, that you would have enough room. If something falls off, you should eat that piece. That's my professional opinion. But the mustards, if you can put the mustards in a little side dish, if you have a bigger cutting board, you can put a dollop on there and people can just use the knife and use it that way. But if you can, put it in a little ramekin or something like that, that would be great. This is a caraway mustard here. And the other one is, I think, Big Mostarda or a whole grain mustard. I got to find out, see which one that they packed in here. Because we make a lot of different mustards in-house.
I think it's the beer mustard.
That's a beer mustard?
Okay. I think you tell me.
I don't know. I'll try it.
And then for these, for the little accompaniments like this, you just kind of put them around. You just kind of do little piles of them together. They add the color.
So this is a whole grain beer mustard. So if you wanted to make it part of your display, you can make, you can have a little pile of just the mustard there like that.
You want to put the cornichons in the other thing?
Yeah.
We're going to put the cornichons in this other one.
Yeah. If you have pickled vegetables and the pickled vegetables have like a lot of juice or something like that, you might want to put it in a ramekin like that as well. But you have this here. I have a little spoon for that.
Usually we have a pickle board.
Yeah, and also tongs are really nice to have. If you have like a little pair of just little bamboo tongs, that can be out there to help serve. And then hold on. And then there's my little knife. So you have the knife for the cheese to cut up yourself or to smear the mustard on there. And then you have little piles of all kinds of little goodies in there. And this is what you want, is just like an assortment that you can graze on them. And if I got that in a restaurant as just for me, I'd be pretty happy.
So I think now we're going to go to look at some pictures to tantalize your taste buds. So if Natalie wants to pull those up. These are some grazing tables that we've done. The one on the left was from the Long Beach Museum of Art grand opening, the downtown branch. So I wanted to show you this because you can see on there, there's pickled cauliflower, there's roasted tomatoes, there's peppers, there's balsamic onions at the top there on the left. All this can be added to a grazing table. So and there's fresh grapes, so people can take a little bit of whatever they like. On the upper right is part of a big table that we did that we included some cocktails with. Aesthetics are really important when doing these kind of things, because you want the colors to play off each other. You don't want to put everything that's pink together or everything that's red together. So you kind of divide it up and arrange it so that it's all complementary to each other. And then on the lower right, I think, is another board we did. You can use height a lot. So you stack things up and put boards up and down so that you have some height and interest. You can go to the next picture, Natalie.
And when you're setting something up, if you're setting something up for several people, keep in mind the first thing they want to do besides grabbing a small plate is grabbing a piece of bread that they start with. And then come the dips, and then come all the toppings, and then maybe the pickles at the end. So that way there's a progression of like making your plate. But don't put the bread at the end because they have to go there and then go back to the beginning of the line. So we do try to think out how they're going to assemble like a little plate.
And I included this one because on the lower right, you see the grapes and the tomatoes. Don't be afraid to use like a whole stem of tomatoes or a whole stem of grapes. You don't have to take everything off the stems, make it really rustic and beautiful that way. Let's go to the next one. There you go, some grapes. I don't know, what is that? That's probably pickled beets.
Pickled radishes, beets. I think on the left.
And then for this one, we took our whole right out of the locker, some whole copas and salumis that came right out of the locker and hung them on a big copper pipe in the middle of the display. So you can play with things. There's some fun ways. We take old vintage boxes and stack them up to make things pretty and fun. We also added flowers. You can see on the lower right there, there's flowers thrown on there. Everything we put on there is edible. So next one.
It's just more of the same.
Beautiful, bright, pretty food.
Yeah.
Next. This is the one on the left is one we did in somebody's dining room in their very, very small home. So you don't need a lot of room. This would be for about 30 people or so. And you can see there the brie that has the knife stuck in it, that's whole. And some of the other cheeses are cut up. I think we have pickled green beans in there.
And it was just so they could go and they could start almost this one. They could start almost any point and then just make a circle around. But they see the elevated in the center helped out a lot. And anything that's going to be juicy, the bocconcini mozzarella that was marinated with the basil oil and the spices that
put in a bowl.
That was in a bowl. The marinated tomatoes were in a bowl as well. So that way they'll be a little easier to manage and not drip over the tablecloth.
The one on the right shows edible flowers again, just sprinkle on top of the cheese. Go ahead.
One on the right's much more straightforward, just charcuterie board, just lots of different kinds of meats and 3 different kinds of mustard there. That's the caraway mustard that you have on and kind of towards the center. Then a fig mostarda is the darker one, and I think that was whole grain beer mustard on the end.
That's just a way you can do a display for the one on the right was a birthday party that we did, and just combining a lot of different things. And we tend to like to label things, but you don't have to because people like, taste and figure out what it is. Sometimes we do. Go ahead. The one on the left was a big one we did at Rancho Los Cerritos, and the one on the right is in a private home. We like to use these boards that you see there on the left are called live edge. They're basically just slabs cut from trees that still have the bark on the edge, on the raw edge. And I just think they really have a nice aesthetic to a cheese and charcuterie grazing table because they're just really rustic, and it's a rustic way to eat. So it really fits the aesthetic. Go ahead. That's another shot of it. Go ahead. The one on the left is a completely vegan grazing table. So the cheese that's there that has a knife stuck in it is a vegan cheese. Next to that is a, I don't know if you know what foie gras is, but it's faux gras. And then there's other cheeses and things and some other dishes that are down there. But that was a completely vegan one that we did that Paul was alluding to earlier. Go ahead. This is one we did for actual photo shoot. So I wouldn't do, because it was a photo shoot, we left a lot of things whole. Like a lot of the breads are whole. A lot of the cheeses aren't sliced and things like that because we specifically wanted to do it for a photo shoot. But I wanted to use this because it really shows you how you can use any containers. You don't have to use, ramekin and bowls like we have here. You can use, start pulling things out of your grandmother's, china cupboard. Throw stuff in them
so you can start using them.
You really can play with it and have fun with it. So go ahead. That should be about it. Again, pairing cocktails with it, and you pull out the beautiful glassware and stuff. Have fun with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah, that was enough. That was a lot.
So the one last thing we wanted to cover is sourcing. You can get the boards, tongs, knives, forks, anywhere from the 99-cent store to World Market to Home Goods, places like that. And then for the ingredients, we obviously do our own charcuterie in-house, so you can get it from us, but we sell a lot of our dips and charcuterie at Wine Country, if you've ever heard of that, and High-Low Market, which is downtown. And then you can go to just Trader Joe's and find some decent stuff there. You can source stuff from all over the place. So
Wine Country has a really exceptional amount of cheese. So they have a great cheese selection there.
And Cheese Addiction.
And Cheese Addiction, which is down in Belmont Shore. That's probably the best selection of cheeses in Long Beach that I've found.
And there's one in Dixie Knolls. And then there's a new cheese store that just opened on 4th Street in Metro Row.
Yeah, Lavash. Yeah, I haven't been there yet, but looking forward to it.
So it's easy to find it if you seek it out. So I hope that made you hungry, because now you can eat it. And I guess we'll take questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone wants to unmute yourself, or you can put a question in the chat.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I get overwhelmed sometimes when I see like these huge charcuterie boards, and I never know like what's a safe combo, you know, like, okay, do I do the meat with the cheese? It's like there's so much to choose from, and I'm overwhelmed and I put things together that aren't great. Are there some like, you know, standard rules? You can't mess up if you do a brie with something sweet or something like that.
Yeah, the dried fruit, especially like the apricots and brie, that goes together. That goes together perfectly. And then there is like I said, we did the candied walnuts here. There's also fig, but you know, that's kind of the fun of this board, is having something dried fruit, fresh fruit, like those grapes you saw in the photo, or fresh sliced peaches. A lot of times when you slice something like an apple, it will brown, so it doesn't look like great after a while. So you do want to keep in mind things that might turn brown on you like that. But I think having that fruit and the cheese, which has got a big salt component, and the meat has a big salt component, that's a nice combination.
I think for me, I like my prosciutto and coppa. I don't like to combine it with anything. I just like to eat it straight up, because I want to taste that and the fat melt in your mouth. And then I like to do take a cracker, throw a little mustard on there, maybe throw some brie on top, and then a part of a fig goes really good with brie. So you might take a chunk of the fig and put it on top of that. That's a really good combination.
And there's fresh figs out now, so
Yeah.
it even makes amazing appetizers. We use the fresh figs and quarter them and make a little divot in the cut part in the center, and then we'll put a little of that blue cheese in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blue cheeses that would go fantastic with that. Sometimes we'll put an almond on there, like a Marcona almond, and then we'll wrap the fig with a piece of the charcuterie, and then that's the one full order. But that's also a really nice combination of the salt, the sweetness, and the texture of a nice Marcona almond.
And harder cheeses, I just like to eat them like this, because it's the same thing. You want to taste the cheese. You don't, so I usually tend to put the softer cheeses on a cracker or a piece of bread and just eat these straight along with the charcuterie.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I've got some good combos to try next time.
Okay.
Awesome. Chris, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
So I have a question. So what are both of your guys' favorite go-to jams? Just because when I try charcuterie boards at restaurants, it's always either like fig jam or apricot jam. And we love We Squad, but I need some more. And you know, I've seen some really unique jams, like these bacon jams, and like you know, your boy is Mexican, so we go for our chile jams, you know what I mean, our spicy chile jams. And so I'm also wondering, like, what kind of jams do you guys enjoy or prefer?
I really like to have something that's like a citrus marmalade, because citrus marmalades have a little bit of sweetness, not too much, but they have that strong acidity that helps, especially when you're going to go, you know, with any cheeses. When we do grilled cheese sandwiches, we end up using that one probably more than anything, a kumquat marmalade or a mandarin or something marmalade. But there's, you know, we do fig and fennel jam a lot. That's also nice, but it doesn't quite have the same acidity. I think I go with seasonal jams because, you know, we make jams all the time. So we always have a jar here and there, everything from fuyu persimmon, which would be wonderful with a brie, but probably would not go so well with a blue or something a little stronger. Yeah. So there is different jams that I'm sure would have better pairings. And I would love to have like that spicy jam with like a manchego, sheep milk cheese, and try that, but not necessarily, you know. So like I said, you're experimenting here with lots of flavors. So
there's a reason why fig and apricot are some of the most popular ones, because they go so well with cheese. Yeah, I mean, fig is really, but you know, we've done blood orange jam, you know, marmalade that's really awesome. You know, you can put anything out there, and I'm a big fan of the peppery jams too. I like those. I like that kick.
Indeed. Well, thank you.
Sure.
Love it. Any other questions? I know I have one. If someone isn't experienced in making, you know, a cheese and charcuterie board, what are kind of like the staples to ease yourself into it, their palate into it?
Well, I would start with 3 different kinds of charcuterie, 3 different kinds of cheeses, and probably a hard cheese, a brie, and a blue. And
one of the meats, a salami, is easy. Usually most salamis will come already whole. So if you have a good sharp knife, you really still want to cut them fairly thin. You don't want them too thick because you can't.
And similar to what we've done here, you know, just a little bit of a variety. So it's not too overwhelming. And really, you know, anything goes. You can put anything on there you want, but at least start with some good charcuterie, some good cheeses, and some dried fruits and nuts. I mean, we don't have what we don't have on here. What we like to is the Marcona almonds. Nice rosemary, salty Marcona almonds.
Yeah,
really good.
Trader Joe's has 2 different kinds
but we
of
do have candied
Marconas.
Walnuts.
Yeah,
so,
we make our own candied walnuts, but I would say Trader Joe's has really good Marconas. They have a truffle one and they have a rosemary one that both go really well with cheese platters.
So just start with that and build from there. And a good crostini that's thin and crispy is always nice, or sliced bread. But if you're gonna have bread, you need to slice it really thin because you don't want this big chunk of bread and a little piece of cheese on top. You know, you want the vehicle that if you're gonna use a vehicle, you want it to be thin and crisp and nice. One of my favorite things that we don't have here is the Trader Joe's has these little toasts that are
dark rye one?
The fig and nuts.
Oh, fig and nut.
There's
toast.
a fig and nut, little toaster fig and nuts. Oh my God, those things are insane, and they're so good with brie.
Yeah, with brie.
They're so good with just brie, nothing else. Just put brie on those things, and they're sweet and they're chewy, super yummy. You can tell I like this.
I love it. It looks like Atira has a question. If you want to unmute yourself. She's enjoying the cheese. I don't blame her.
Yeah, me too. I didn't have lunch.
So what do you guys like? How do you feel about salmon, like smoked salmons on charcuterie boards?
Yeah, I think that's fine because, you know, depending on regionally what you're doing, if I'm doing a Scandinavian one, I would have completely different things on there. You know, most of the things that we're doing are either Italian influenced or French influenced, but any country can influence a charcuterie board, and I think smoked salmons especially, or even, you know, if I was making a Swedish one for my herring loving wife here, I would probably, you know, that wouldn't be bad either. And those are preserved things. I mean, really, a lot of the things on here are preserved items. You know, they're either smoked, they're brined, they're dry cured, they're, you know, those are the things that make up a charcuterie board generally. Even cheese is aged. So all the things on here are aged, and sometimes they, you know, get better with age. So.
Yeah, if you were gonna do like a smoked, hot, cold, or cold smoked salmon, add that. I would add some kind of dill mustard with that. I'd probably put some Havarti cheese to the side of it, because those are all Scandinavian, go really well together. A Jarlsberg cheese would be really good. Yeah. But yeah, I love some good smoked salmon for sure.
Yeah. So you can, you know, this is just showing you the basics, and then you can always expand from that and make the board bigger. Or I don't think I would put salmon on the same board with the meats and the cheeses, just because I don't want the flavors to mix.
You could make a little Swedenland over here.
Yeah, you could.
You have a little Swedenland of the
Swedenland with the
Viking people, with their little charcuterie
and with those onions. I love those pickled onions. They're really good.
Onions, red pickled
onions. As long as they don't invade each other's territory.
Right. Yeah. Stay away from the Italians and the French over here.
Okay.
Love it.
Any other questions, or anybody else have anything? You can ask us anything you want.
I have another one.
Okay.
2 actually. One, can we talk a little bit about other sweets? Like I see a lot of boards that have honey and I don't know what it's called. Membrillo, the Spanish.
Membrillo.
Yeah, membrillo. Yeah. Okay. And so there's other sweet things besides marmalades and stuff. You know, how do you incorporate those? Just put them on there and mix and match and see what works?
Yeah, membrillo is another preserve, so it's really just like a jam. It's just really, really cooked down, and it's a quince, because if you've ever had quince, it looks like an apple. And there's a lot of apple trees that use quince as a base rootstock, and then they graft on the apple to that quince. But sometimes if you let that tree go and the apple dies off, then you have all these quince and you have no idea what to do with them. So we had some at the growing experience, and I made a huge batch of Membrio probably 2 years ago, and it's still good. I mean, it's still fine, but it goes really good with the cheeses just because it has a little bit more of that tart component that has a mild sweetness and still plays with the salt that's in the cheese. And then on the other,
on honeycomb, I've seen boards where there's just a big chunk of it sitting there, and people just hack off some with a knife, or I've seen it where they actually cut it up in little pieces. But honeycomb is pretty fun to do also.
Yeah, and I would have to say that I am not a huge fan of honeycomb. I think aesthetically it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think
eating it's a whole.
And I think the sweetness would be really good with maybe the blue or something like that. But it has wax. The cells are made of wax. So when you eat it, you're kind of eating wax, and
like, no,
it's okay. It's edible wax, but it's just still, I think
you're looking for a trash can. Like,
yeah,
what do I do with this?
Yeah, I don't know.
my mouth.
Once it's stuck in your teeth, you go like, okay, what's this? Well, I can't eat that. It's like the wax, much like the wax on the outside of cheese that you say, oh, I got to trim that off next time. So I think that's the one difficulty with having that kind of a honey. If you had a honey in like a little jar, I think that'd be more interesting with a really tiny spoon that you could kind of do the finishing touches on one of your. And if you have a charcuterie that ends up being, wow, that's a little salty, because I like trying to make mine very mild and low salt. But if you have one that's really salty, that honey could really help it. Or if you have a copa, which is a shoulder mussel, and they have one called capicola, and it has a really spicy paprika or chili powder on the outside. If you have that, now you have heat and salt, and a little sweetness on the top might help balance all the flavors.
Got it. Okay. And my second question was, you guys know I do gifts. Are there any shelf-stable cheeses you would recommend?
Shelf-stable cheeses.
Or are they all just bleh? That's why I haven't, even though it's the craze and I want to do like a charcuterie gift box, I'm like, yuck. Like, I just can't think of.
I can't really think of a shelf-stable cheese that. I mean, there is tins of things. I mean, there's a lot of tins of seafood that come from Italy and Spain, especially Spain. You know, where one tin could be like $100. You know, of a special region from one place, and I'm sure those are amazing delicacies. But they're.
But cheese is a hard one though.
I can't think of a lot of stable cheeses because it is you know, they're mostly milk products. Right. And even the plant-based ones are kept in the refrigerated section. I haven't seen any that are shelf stable.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so. Just wanted to ask.
If you find any, let us know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions? I think we're good. Well, I cannot thank you both enough. Thank you so much, Chef Paul and Dana, for joining us today. This was amazing, and I am starving now.
We're gonna eat.
Yeah.
This is our lunch.
So I hope you guys enjoy your charcuterie, and I hope you learned a few things. We were happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. So I am we're going to wrap this event up, but before we do, I do want to talk about a few upcoming events. The Chamber is very excited that we will be starting in-person events soon. Yay! So I no longer have to worry about unmuting myself and muting myself when I am on Zoom. So first and foremost, our next LBYP event will be on July 28th, and that's going to be at 7:30 in the morning because it will be in person and it'll be at Holiday Inn. I know it's a little early, but there's some leeway. But it will be an official breakfast networking event. The more details, of course, to come, but please mark your calendars for that one. But our first in-person event for the Chamber will be our Good Afternoon Long Beach, which will be Tuesday the 13th, so 2 weeks from yesterday, at noon, and that is going to be at Parker's Lighthouse, and we will be hearing from Atira, who is here, Rodriguez, from the LB Post. So excited to have you talk to us, and it'll just be wonderful to be back in person again. So exciting things coming up.